We go. How's that? It might help. That's hilarious. So now we started out with zero sound, and now we fixed. So we've got 3 minutes with no sound. That's hilarious. So I was working. I was working in the kitchen on the laptop, and then I ran in here with it, and I forget to plug in the microphone. So that is hilarious. So you guys heard nothing of what I said. So I have to give that a recap. Um, that's so funny. Anyhow, so, so as I was saying, welcome everybody to the stream. Can you hear? You guys hear okay? You guys hear okay? So I was really having a great time talking to myself. Too bad you guys couldn't hear. But I said some pretty amazing things. So, it's gonna be funny though because on the playback you'll get the subtitles. But that's about it. So, what's up, WB? Welcome. We love Chinese bamboo. Man, that's early. Early. Starting it off big here. Crypto Sifu, appreciate that. So, man, that's awesome. So here's what I intend to do. Now, let me see here. I'm trying to get this up and running and see if I can get this going here without any issue. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have any issue here. Trying to see if I can see what I'm gonna do. So, Chip always does a intro and welcome and wants to acknowledge the first person on to the stream each time. So I want to change it up a little bit. And so somebody new to the stream or first person on the stream, I'm going to send some XRP. So today is Annalise George, and I'm shooting some XRP your way as we speak, utilizing the XRP tip bot. I love it. I really appreciate all of you guys, for joining in and being here with me. Sometimes 3 times a week and sometimes more, depending on whether or not we throw in an extra stream for the week. So last night there were definitely some great streams going on. Always, always trying to work out. Actually, this morning I skipped my workout specifically so I could make sure that I do these streams. But I always make sure that I take my dog out for a long walk on Saturday mornings. We always try to go out for like an hour and a half because that's kind of gives him an opportunity to get out too. So, all right, let's see, where are we at here? Okay, so now I've completely lost track. No. All right, so what I wanted to get into today, and really yesterday, in the past couple days, we've really been, touching on some of the topics at hand when it comes to what's going on right now in this space. So, number one, obviously we just see Facebook and with the Libra launching, and I think we've all pretty much discussed it at length. But I want to take a different spin on what's happening. And I pulled up some interesting articles. We're not going to go through each individual article. I pulled them up so we can at least have an interesting guidance of what we're going to talk about. And it all fits into the narrative and into the theme. Farshad, what's up, man? Welcome. Glad to see you on. Joining us on an early morning. It is over in Texas. Man, it's like 7 a.m. So getting up early just to tune in and see me. I'm sure you're on your way to the gym as well. So if you guys, I started out, actually before we get into it, make sure you guys get your favorite drink, favorite espresso, coffee, whatever that might be. Just a quick story. So I have a buddy that comes in, and he comes in once a month from overseas and brings coffee to us. And I think it's important because you can't get this coffee in the U.S. It's an espresso roast. And so the espresso is outstanding. What time? Oh, it's 10 o'clock over there. Oh, wow. So nighttime, if you guys are in Australia or anywhere on the other side of the world, make sure that you're drinking your favorite drink. You don't need espresso, but maybe you need espresso to stay awake for the show today. So, but anyhow, so I ordered, so we get that coffee coming in, but there's another brand of espresso I like, which is made by Illy. And so we can get it on Amazon, and you get it in 4-packs. So I just have it almost like on a reorder. So I get my espresso. The other day, I reordered it. It shows up, and it's bold. It's not dark roast. And they just have no idea what they're messing with when they try to bait and switch somebody's coffee. I was so upset that I left. I just sent them this really, nasty message. And and then they finally contacted me back. I'm like, what the hell? You can't mess with somebody's espresso. Then you send them a bold roast. It's not even the same thing. Sometimes that's like, it could be a medium, it could be a light, or, and it sometimes they, in the bold roast, they pack it so that there's more caffeine. And typically the light roast and the medium roast will have more caffeine than a dark espresso roast. But it's drastically different in flavor as well. So that was killing me. That was just killing me. So now I'm all set. I ran out of my Illy. Fortunately, we still have some of the Segfredo that we have brought in by my friend that comes in once a month. And so we've got that bag. I got to bust that one open. And hopefully the guys over at Amazon are fixing my Illy problem, so that we'll be all set on the espresso front. So now, hang on a second. Let me find. I closed the chat by mistake. There we go. Yes. Yeah, we get coffee from overseas. Oh, I get it. Yep, it's good coffee. So, just a bald roast. Man, I have a feeling. I don't know, Carl. I don't know what they're up to over there. So, those guys over at Amazon trying to bait and switch my espresso with a bold roast. So, all right, so here we go. Now, we're getting ready to talk about what was going on over the past couple days, talking about the Libra coin, also going back and looking at some of the themes that we discuss on here, thinking about the fact that we're beginning to see a blending of banks and digital asset exchanges. Digital asset exchanges getting more and more involved or integrated into banking, which is the natural progression. And it's an obvious natural progression at this point, especially seeing a lot of the add-ons, especially considering the fact that the digital asset exchanges are identifying and recognizing the significance of being able to lend and pay out interest. We've seen multiple exchanges. Uphold is doing it. Coinbase is partnering with somebody. Binance is partnering with somebody. There's multiple exchanges. They're getting involved in that. Plus, from a custodial perspective, all the big exchanges are actively involved in a custodial arrangement with some of the larger financial institutions to be able to hold the digital assets of financial institutions are buying for, as they're investing for their clients. So there's a lot going on in the space. Now, I think it's interesting that that we saw this response coming out of government, coming out of central banks, and we already talked about this at length, and D and I talked. We've all talked about it, but I really, to put kind of a final cap on it, what I'm seeing is that governments and central banks are in reactionary mode right now. So, for the past number of years, well, from the beginning, think about the inception of Bitcoin and the response. And I think it's funny as it comes full circle with the expectation or anticipation of what Bitcoin was all about. So Bitcoin as a response to the global economic collapse, well, maybe not a global economic collapse everywhere, because I think Australia, for the most part, was spared during that period of time. But overall, as we see the dynamic and the shift of the economy due to what happened in the in the banking mortgage crisis space, and then we have Bitcoin coming out as a response. We have multiple people and the outspoken during that period of time, which was a relatively small community, talking about Bitcoin replacing banks. and that people wouldn't be banking. Everyone's going to be using Bitcoin. So I think that we're really identifying, oh man, that's awesome, WB. I was waiting for that sign. I was waiting for that notice that Bitcoin was going to exceed 11,000, and it was right now, and we can announce it first on the HODL report before anybody else. News is being released. 11,000 for Bitcoin, first time in this bear market, and that's exciting, and that's actually showing the trend of where this market is going. And XRP showing us once again that it's a super stable coin. So that's our favorite stable coin, moving up incrementally, and then we're gonna start seeing some big gains. 1150, man. I'm expecting that Bitcoin's gonna hit, if it keeps this trend, according to Coinbase. Okay, we'll pull it up on multiple exchanges. We're gonna see a Bitcoin probably around 15,000. I gotta believe, by next week if this pace keeps up. But what's so significant about it, and I believe the markets are finally reacting, the markets are responding directly to how the central banks and the governments are actually responding. Kevin Paul, what's up, man? Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. That's awesome. So yeah, man, people are waking up. Facebook, forget about what we think about, and I talked about this the other, forget about what we think about the Libra coin, forget about what we think about this consortium, and it's so amazing that you have all these, this involvement of financial institutions, no banks, no Google, no Apple, no Amazon. They're not participating in the Facebook Libra because each one of those entities are trying to do the exact same thing. Amazon is trying to do it. Google is trying to do it. Apple is trying to do it. They all want to get into this payment space because this payment space is so vitally important. And we're going to go down one of the comments that we're going to get into a little bit later is something that Mr. B posted up on Twitter, and it specifically highlights the significance of the P2P space. Why is it so important? Why are people vying for it? Why are people trying to capture it? And the central banks and the governments they've been sleeping on the job. 2010, we see Bitcoin come out. They do nothing about it. Now, a number of years go by. It's too late. Now you have mass adoption globally. You have acceptance of digital assets. You have more digital assets being added. You have major corporations getting involved in digital assets and blockchain technology. They understand and they see that blockchain technology is revolutionary. They understand that blockchain technology is probably one of the more significant technological developments of our lifetime, next to what the internet brought, and probably on par with what the internet did, for everybody in terms of what it's going to, provide, obviously, in the payment space, what it means in the supply chain space, what it means in the art world, what it means in micropayments, what it means, just across the board. It has so much significance of what can be accomplished with this technology. So governments don't want to crush it. Governments are also realizing that digital assets are life-changing for economies globally, anywhere in the world. Everybody's struggling. There's a lot of talk about this incoming economic recession around the world. We see some struggles going on over in Australia. We see some struggles going on over in Europe right now. Obviously, we're also seeing some shift in dynamics. We talked about this in the past. Economically speaking, in terms of the division of the Eurozone, countries going back to their own currency, but can they go back to a fiat currency? Italy is now initiating a shadow currency that's going to operate, side by side with the euro, which is an intent to separate off. And I meant I should have brought this down. I was going to bring all this fiat currency from pretty much all over the world from traveling and just stacks, and it's just kind of crazy because as you go through this fiat currency, people, when you travel, almost it's rare that you touch that fiat currency anymore. Everything's moving in a digital direction, and the banks are attempting to embrace this digital world, but they've been outmaneuvered, they've been outplayed And I think that's what we're seeing right now, this response, this reaction. And Facebook has just, moved a piece on the board. If we look at this digital space in general, again, forget about what our discussion or argument might be on their technology or whether or not their digital asset is a centralized, form of, of digital currency, and whether or not you might think it's a PayPal 2.0, whether or not you think it may or may not even be a digital currency. The point being is that this Facebook, that movement, that chess piece has just been played, and now we're moving into checkmate. And it's crazy. So we're probably at a point where we've just put the banks and the central banks and the governments on notice. Now they're in check, and now they're realizing, holy crap, we got to do something. But it's too late. How do we embrace it? Then we have rumblings from within government, the Shermanator, who speaks out against digital assets to his own detriment, to his own folly, because if anybody in California that's in his district decides to run against him, they need to run against him on his lack of knowledge of technology, representing a district that should be reliant on technology in California, regardless of what part of California you're in. You've got a major epicenter in Silicon Valley, whether it's in your district or not, that is significant worldwide. And if you're going to take a point where you don't even know how Facebook works, you don't even know how Google works, and you're going to sit up there on Capitol Hill and you're going to voice your opinion on something you don't know, you better keep your mouth shut. Instead of uttering some falsehoods or misstatements or a preconceived notion or the message that's passed to you by the lobbyist that's paying your bills, and just doing their dirty work. And that's the Shermanator. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people on the Hill that do that, that are like the Shermanator, but that voice is relatively strong, so he's outspoken, and he's trying to serve as a counterbalance to what's going on with McHenry, with Ted Budd, with Warren Davidson. There's so many other positive bills that are being proposed right now to support digital asset. And there's a good number on Capitol Hill that understand the significance of blockchain technology and digital asset. Now, when we go around the world globally, they're getting it. And they're moving, light years ahead, in terms of this technology at a rapid pace away from where the U.S. is right now. And now we're playing catch up in the U.S. And it's important that we catch up, because this space is so significant. Now, going back to, why are central banks and governments, terrified of Facebook? They're really terrified of social media money. They're afraid of social money. They're afraid of individuals being able to transact between themselves without full involvement of a banking entity, or they're also afraid of the fact that individuals can build wealth without the impact and control mechanism of the governments. Now, taxation is obviously something that they're concerned about. They're going to keep pushing out lies that that this isn't transparent in nature, where we all know that even the Facebook through their Calibra app is going to be fully transparent, at least to Facebook. It might not be fully transparent to everyone else, but if it's truly built on the blockchain, that will be transparent, unless they're developing as a privacy coin, which they're not. So those transactions are traceable and are transparent. Now, the thing is, the governments can work with the individual exchanges or the individual apps that are going to be used for payment, in order to collect their taxes. But the thing is that a certain component within a country, within society, is government control over the populace. And there's different mechanisms in place in order for a government to control their people. I know this is really serious for anyone joining early morning, but is of those of you that are in the evening, maybe it's too in depth for that as well. But anyhow, so governments have multiple mechanisms to control. One of those mechanisms is controlling your healthcare. One of those mechanisms is fully controlling your assets, controlling your means of economic gain. Overtaxation is a means of controlling you, spreading misinformation and getting individuals to pay tax and doing it, and doing it with intent. So we have, there's all these ridiculous taxes out there, like the carbon tax, for instance. That's a voluntary tax that you can pay to offset a carbon footprint that's based off of something that's made up by the government. Because why in the world would anybody pay for a carbon tax when the government does absolutely nothing with that except for take that money and dump it into their coffers and laugh the whole way as they say, look at all these people that are volunteering to pay a tax on top of all the high taxes they're already paying. So this is why they're terrified. They're terrified what digital assets represent. They're terrified what digital asset exchanges represent. So the digital asset exchanges have painted a target on the backs of central banks, on the backs of these brick and mortar banks, mainly because they understand the direction that the economy is moving in. Even the central banks and the governments have identified it, but they're just not able to move at the pace that's required. So it's really interesting, that we're seeing this seismic shift right now, and what really terrifies them, I think, is that they look and they say, okay, we saw what Amazon was able to do to the big box retail, do the brick and mortar banks. Now that they're on notice and the central banks are on notice, is the digital asset exchange, able to do to the banks what Amazon did to all these big box retail? And Amazon has virtually destroyed, they've decimated big box retail. Obviously, people still go out and shop, but they've had to change the structure of how they do it. And then Amazon is ramping it up. Others are ramping it up to the point where, it makes it extremely, extremely difficult, for these banks at this point, just like the retail big box, to operate, to function. And so, I think that, that's, really, really important, for us to all consider. So let me just go back. Let me see some of the comments here, and then we're gonna jump back in it and get back to it. So I know a bunch of you guys jumped in, said hello, appreciate it. I saw you guys bounce in. George Pacheco, glad that you made it on. I think that's how you pronounce your last name. Mike G popped in here. Alex, we got a bunch of people popped in. When I was kind of going through all that. So it's great to see all you on. If I didn't mention you, it's sorry about that. But I've seen you guys all pop in one by one. And so also want to, for those of you that just popped in, just a restatement. Annalise, George, first one on the stream today, got some free XRP. So we're going to do that from now on. I think that's a great compliment for everybody's support here. Ralph Raymond, I thought this was an important comment. Let me see here. Eyes are a little blurry so it's hard for me to see what's going on here for some reason. Banks being regulated will inevitably custody crypto, as they will be required to notify governments of transactions over $1,000. They will probably offer exclusivity like offshore banks to some extent. I think that's a great point. We see what's happening with the FATF. I put that kind of at the end of the thoughts to wrap up on international. But there is that mechanism in place that they're attempting to regulate, to make sure that all the transactions are similar to the way they're regulating banks. And so there really isn't anything, necessarily, wrong with that in terms of, if this is how everyone agreed on banks doing it, to some extent, there should be, some form of expected regulation on the digital asset exchanges to work in a similar way. So if that's happening, and it's going to happen faster and faster when there's going to be certain criteria over these exchanges, the exchanges are going to crush the banks. The banks aren't printing money at the pace that these digital asset exchanges can print money. People come into a bank and they're realizing, that they put their money in there. When they borrow money out of a bank, you're paying a high rate of interest. When you have your money sitting there, they're paying you almost no interest. However, the digital asset exchange is a global phenomenon now that's attracting. It's going to, and we're just in the beginning stages, but we're beginning to experience what it means, for the mainstream to gain some recognition of this space. The mainstream to begin to understand the extent of what blockchain technology is, but more importantly, understanding the extent of what investing in digital assets means. And there's so much that's going on in this space right now. It's every single day there's new technology popping up that they're developing in this space. And that again is why the central banks and the governments are running scared from Facebook, because that was the sign for them. That's the identifier. And whether it's, Facebook is just an easy person or an easy company to drag in front of them, because they're really, identifying them as the biggest threat to their own existence based on, Facebook launching this Libra coin. But if you analyze it, the entire space is what they're identifying as potentially detrimental. When I talk about that, the banks, but the banks are trying to join in on it. But again, they can pick on Facebook because you have people you can drag in front of them, and again, that's the most immediate threat. But it's too late for them. There's really nothing that they're going to come back to really make an impact. And really, what's was an article that came out on Bloomberg, and so this article that came out on Bloomberg, I'm going to read the title of it, and you kind of get a gist of what their point is. Goldman Sachs executive says legacy retail banks are screwed. And that's exactly what they are. So Goldman Sachs sees it, guaranteed all these other banks see it. I've got another article from Bank of America, and you're going to see the transaction and the focus and the direction that they're moving in, because they all see it. Obviously, JP Morgan saw it, hence JPM, the JPM coin. Too little, too late, because it's not the right thing. But the point is that they're identifying it and they see what needs to be done. So here we have, this was the quote, and we'll leave it at that and we'll move on. There are two kinds of incumbent banks. There are banks that are screwed, and there are banks that don't know they're screwed, said entrepreneur Adam Dell, founder of personal finance app Clarity Money that was acquired by Goldman Sachs in 2018. And he was speaking at the Fortune Brainstorm Finance Conference in New York this past week. That was on Thursday. I love that statement. Let me read that again because it's awesome. There are two kinds of incumbent banks. There are banks that are screwed, and there are banks that don't know they're screwed. That is just like, that summarizes everything in one statement, and that's exactly where the banks are right now, because they have, there's those that are understanding it. They're trying to make a transition, and the rest that, eventually are going to identify that they have to. They just think that they're going to keep going on to get along, and they haven't gotten it yet. But that Facebook announcement is what jogged all of them, and now they're all, reeling and trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. So then we move on to Bank of America. Now, so this was an article that came out on Fortune, and the title here, they pulled out his statement, Bank of America CEO, we want a cashless society. What does that mean? Does that mean that they want everybody to function off credit cards? Does that mean that they want everybody, just having digital bank accounts and debit cards or apps to use their money? Is that really what it means? Or are they also realizing that when we talk about the digitization of money, that they want a cashless society that's also, with an anticipation of their understanding that digital assets are moving faster and faster to really taking over. And so, some of the statements, and they're focusing on, some of these apps that are also going to be absorbed and crushed. So here it said, with 27 million customers, 37 million digital customers, and more than half of its transactions already digitized, via methods like payment application Zelle. Moynihan said the banking industry will continue to move towards a digital tech-enabled models, which, as he noted, are cheaper and more efficient than traditional methods. So Zelle is cheaper, but there's even better technology than that. So the fact that they want to cashless society, again, they see the writing on the wall. There's going to be those banks that are going to continue to try to fight back. But really, they can only fight back so much before they get absorbed. So DNI, what's up, man? Glad to see you on. Let me see here. Let me see what you just said, because this is, I want to see if you'd mentioned something prior to. Before that, though, digital thoughts, because this is Australia. Australian banks are in the process of huge fines from the Reserve Bank of Australia for dragging their feet in the speed of the payment system and not adapting. Glad you shared that. Good article, good statement. Shows that, banks around the world, they're trying to hold on to what they know, trying to hold on to the old way of things. And that's definitely detrimental when you try to hold on to the old way. You've got to embrace, current technology. You've got to embrace, what's good for the people, not what's always good for you. So let's see, DNI. Under these new measures, virtual asset service providers will be required to implement the same AML CFT requirements as traditional finance institutions. Glad you shared that. That's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think it's fine that we have those measures. What that tells us is that we're moving these digital asset exchanges into the mainstream. The fact that they want these measures, if they didn't see digital asset exchanges as a direct threat to this industry, if they didn't understand and see that the digital asset exchanges were the new banks, they wouldn't have these type of requirements. So the fact that they want those requirements, they're also trying to level the playing field with what the bank's expectations are. However, putting this in place is also going to push digital asset exchanges to become FDIC insured, which is what everybody wants, because then you have a more mainstream adoption to allow people to keep their money on exchanges and not have to keep their money externally on offline wallets and manage their own deposits. Most people don't have that capability. If you think about it, I just went through an update on my Ledger Nano S. I hadn't looked at it in a while, pulled it out of dusted off the cobwebs, plugged it in, had to do an update, had to delete everything off of it, had to add it back, had to figure out how to access everything again, logging in, adding, each individual wallet, opening the wallets. Could you imagine the Shermanator trying to do that? Forget about it. And there's a lot of people in the Shermanator's position that simply from a technical perspective, they can't even find the app on their phone, let alone use a ledger. And that's a large percentage of society. So those people are still going to need mainstream support through the digital asset exchanges, being able to keep their digital asset investments and holdings on these digital asset exchanges. So having this regulation in place, thanks for sharing that, DNI. Now, Mnuchin commented, well, I just blew through it. Mnuchin commented, this one forced a level playing field for virtual asset service providers, including cryptocurrency providers and traditional financial institutions. Great point. Appreciate that. WB. All right, here we go. Let's see. I wanted to get the word out. Don't use the Byte BTC cryptocurrency exchange. They typically don't send withdrawals and lock you out of your account for a review. I'm glad you put that up there. Man, that sucks. You got to be careful with what the exchanges that you use. Be very careful as well if you're in the United States using international exchanges and you're going to hold more than $10,000 on that exchange. That needs to be reported. So make sure you look it up. Talk to your CPA about holding any asset valued over $10,000, meaning keeping a bank account over $10,000 or investment over $10,000 on a foreign exchange needs to be reported. So I think those are, and then obviously using these small exchanges. More and more has come out about Quadriga, and it's shocking the level of insanity that's come out of that exchange. And that's what happens with smaller exchanges that are controlled by one individual. That's why you can look at a Coinbase or an Uphold or a Binance or a Gemini, and you understand that it has a full corporate banking-like structure behind it. So, Egbertina, glad you made it on. It's always, best to be here than to not be here at all. So, glad you made it. DNI, FATF issued guidance for all. Guidance, FATF through the G7. I think that the FATF guideline, it still needs to be adopted by each individual country into their own policy to make sure that it's going to be valid, for the individual country. But I think when we look at international guideline, that's how we interact with each other. There has to be some semblance of commonality across the board. So having that in place will be important, and I think that it's one more thing again towards mainstream adoption. So let's see here. I think stable coins will save the traditional currencies, and what the AUD or USD stable coin bill be backed by the fiat currency. If they don't, they'll die. It's going to be interesting to see what happens and whether or not we start seeing a transition. I think overall, countries are still going to want to manage their own currency. At this point, I don't see us moving away from individual currency for individual countries anytime in the near future. Anyways, Mac, I don't know if Swift is. I wouldn't put it past them though to start working with R3 Corda or something along those lines. I think that'd be important. So, man, okay, so we got Bank of America. Now, just as a side note, let's take a side step over. Then we're gonna come right back to some of this insanity. But I think there's some really interesting things that are going on in this space, and that's what we want to look at right now. So, and I want to talk a little bit about real estate because there's a lot happening on the real estate side. Before we do that, let me see what DNI just posted up. The Financial Action Task Force adopted its new rules on crypto assets and published its updated guidance on virtual currency and virtual asset service providers Friday. Oh, dude, I missed that. Can you, if you have a link to it, can you throw it up here? That'd be awesome. Ralph, I feel traditional banks and governments, regulators must be terrified over Libra coin. Awesome. Yeah. And that's, to me, just to kind of cap off what we were talking about. That's exactly why we're seeing this space blow up again. That cost me. All right. What's it going to cost? One link. Let's auction that off. I'm going to have DNI do the auctions from now on. Did a great job yesterday. So, yeah, just to cap it off, again, I do believe that this space that we're seeing, this big movement in this space right now, the investment, the fact that BTC is hitting 11,000, a lot of it has to do, there's a lot of different things happening in this space. And we started obviously to see some important movement and growth before the Libra announcement, but with the Libra announcement, now all the focus, and it's great too, because negative press, positive press, it doesn't matter. What matters is that people are talking about it and focused in on this space. So right now, if we think about it, oh, that's awesome, DNI. Thank you very much. DNI put up this link here on the FATF global regulation that is going to be adopted by what was the task force? The Financial Action Task Force. So awesome. Let's go into real estate. Real estate here. All right, this came out on Forbes. This is interesting. Let's just dig into it. Make sure I've got the right. Here we go. So this is real estate startups. Now, from a property investment perspective, we've seen multiples pop up. And if you think about crowd investment, the idea that multiple people can invest in something and get return on what they're investing in. So if you look at like Prosper, people come to Prosper because they want to take out loans. Other people go to Prosper because they want to lend money. I've been doing that for a long time, lending money on Prosper. It's awesome. And then as people pay you back, you can take that and have it reinvested into other people. Average return, it used to be a lot higher. Now the average return is probably about 6 or 7%. It's not bad to have a continuous 6 or 7% return on investment. Not the best, but it's not horrible. So, it's not bad to in a diversified manner to have that going on. So I'm happy about that. Now, when we look at real estate has some massive potential. And there have been other types of investments like Prosper into real estate. But now with blockchain technology, it allows whether or not they're planning on the tokenization, which is really the direction to be able to tokenize real estate. You're building a major skyscraper. You tokenize the investment in that skyscraper. You sell off those pieces. People now own a part of that property. And that is absolutely outstanding to have that opportunity to be able to do that. And now all of a sudden, what does that mean? In terms of globally, there's a lot of countries in the world that could benefit from new growth, new development in their infrastructure, especially when it comes to the building. Obviously, you don't want to own a bridge. I don't know what kind of return you'll get on a bridge, but you'll definitely get return. Unless it's a toll bridge or a toll road. Maybe that's a good idea. If we can tokenize these toll roads, if we can tokenize, wow, that would be pretty amazing actually. Think about how many millions and millions of dollars get generated on these tolls all the time. A portion goes to the government to pay them off. A portion goes to the private entity, which would be the ownership of everyone that owns a piece of it. Same thing with real estate. I mean, this is unreal. So you can raise money. You want to build a skyscraper in whatever country, whatever city, doesn't matter. You go, you make the case. This is what we're building. You raise the funds. Boom, you got the funding. They don't have to worry about going to the banks. They don't have to do it. Now they've raised the money. They've sold off whatever percentage of the asset, and people are getting an immediate return when it's built and it's rented or it's sold off. People. It's unreal. The fact that we're going to be able to do that more and more with real estate changes the dynamics of investment. And once again, also shows us that from a banking perspective, the banks also identify that, as you can tokenize things like real estate, these builders aren't going to come to them for funding anymore. The real estate companies are going to turn to the people to get investment. And that's really amazing. Mr. B, real estate is overvalued. Yep. So when 12K, Mr. B, hopefully by tomorrow at the rate it's going, dude, I firmly see a BTC at 12,000. Here's my last thought on that, and then we'll keep going. And I could be completely off base, not giving any kind of financial advice. I'm just looking at it to say, here's why the community is riled up because of this focus right now, the mainstream focus. The whole world is excited again because Facebook is being dragged in front of the Senate. As Facebook announced this big Libra coin. July 16th is the Senate hearing. There's going to be another hearing in front of Congress because Maxine Waters wants to drag Zuckerberg in front of Congress, in front of the Financial Services Committee. So it just so happened that the Senate gets them first. Then they're going to come in front of the Financial Services Committee. He's going to be spending a lot of time on Capitol Hill, which is also the reason, as I mentioned the other day, that we're seeing the Token Taxonomy Act put on ice directly due to Maxine Waters. And I got that information directly from Davidson's office. So TTA is being put on hold as a direct result of Maxine Waters wanting to have a hearing with Facebook, with Zuckerberg. Now, they might say the Senate hearing is enough for them. I doubt it because, based on their, they all believe that, they're better than everybody else. So based on that alone, they're probably going to want to bring Zuckerberg in front of their own committee and interview him and have the same, stupid questions from the Shermanator that we had before. Hopefully not. Davidson's office is going to be doing a stellar job at educating everybody ahead of time prior to the hearing. There's a lot of support. Now we see McHenry, we see others that are really going to come up with some astute questions instead of trying to figure out, oh, is that an app on your phone? And, you know, whatever they said, I don't know. So, Mr. B, so real estate is overvalued right now, and that is, you know, definitely, you know, and I appreciate that, and it's happening so drastically fast. It's unbelievable how that ramped up, Mr. B. You know, especially if you look in like South Florida, it's insane at the pace at which real estate has increased again. You know, just insane, absolutely insane. So, all right, so where were we? All right, we talked about real estate. That's enough on real estate. Mr. B, you know, really appreciate that. Libra doesn't happen. Yeah, whether it happens or not, I believe that it will, though. And the reason why I believe that it will is because Facebook is determined to be in the payment space. Facebook is determined to compete with Google and Apple on that. They're determined to compete with others, you know, in the payment space like WeChat and others. They want to have a mechanism in place because of the article, actually, Mr. B, that you posted on Twitter the other day, which is you know, I wanted to share that here, why the P2P market is huge and why it's so important for Facebook. And let me see, that was, you put an article up here from the payment source the other day, and I think it's great. So the massive market for cross-border P2P was the article. It's from, again, thepaymentsource.com. Thanks, Mr. B, for putting that up on Twitter the other day. But here it starts off specifically, the market for cross-border person-to-person remittance is massive. It experienced double-digit growth in 2018 as consumers migrated from one country to another in search of better economic opportunities, as well as to escape political and financial upheaval. This page is unresponsive and is about to die. So that's awesome. So anyhow, I think you know by posting that, we all understand that the remittance payment space is massive. We understand based on what Ripple is doing on a larger scale. We understand what others are doing on a smaller scale, and Facebook identifies what can happen, especially with their subscriber base. They have 2+ billion subscribers active. I think there's like 1.8 that are active daily. There's over 2 billion that are active monthly. That's a huge subscriber base. Even if you get 10% of them to start doing transaction, imagine what that means. Now all of a sudden you basically have, you know, one of the largest P2P remittance companies in the world overnight, you know, and you know, you really potentially, you know, crush or at least join in competition with the volume that Western Union and MoneyGram are doing. Now, I'm not saying that people are going to adopt it, because at the end of the day, with Facebook, it goes to an app. You know, so you're gonna have to go onto the Calibra app, and this goes back to our conversation before on the Shermanator and others like him that have no clue how to get on the internet, let alone open an app to send money, and they're probably not going to be that comfortable with it. Plus, we also have to anticipate that there's a certain you know, segment in, you know, within society that are still not have the knowledge, but they're not going to be comfortable with doing it that way. So they're still going to want to rely on a more, you know, solid mechanism that's not going through a Facebook. So, you know, a Facebook could still be terrifying for others. You know, they don't want to give them that kind of information. They don't want to give them that kind of power. It's going to come down to the people making that decision. But that's just how I've thought about it. You know, I don't know. Mr. B, I think they have gotten their hand caught in the cookie jar already, and Congress isn't going to let it happen. Time will tell. And that's interesting, Mr. B, because, you know, they're singling out Facebook. Facebook is on their hit list right now. The fact that Facebook wouldn't pull down that video of Nancy Pelosi, and rightfully so, they shouldn't pull it down. And we talked about this the other night. You know, who is it that is now going to be this quote-unquote czar of propaganda and make a determination as to what videos are just entertainment and what's propaganda, and what dangerous path that is for us to walk down when there's somebody in government or within YouTube or Facebook that is going to monitor the post that we put up there and make a determination as to whether or not it's propaganda or entertainment. That's really, really dangerous, especially if someone that is going to be politically motivated to the opposition to now make statements that, oh, that's propaganda, hence I'm taking it down, but I'm going to let the others go up. But the social media space is for entertainment. The fact that these Democrats I don't want to just single out Democrats and Republicans up on Capitol Hill that don't understand how things function within this space. They don't understand the dynamic of a Facebook. It's social media. It's meant as an interaction between people. It's meant that whatever gets shared there is maybe truthful, maybe not truthful. Who cares? But the fact that they've been so focused for the past couple of years on Russian influence with these, AI generated or paid ads from Russia and these fake accounts from Russia, who cares? Again, I know there's, a large percentage of people that only read headlines, but CNN, definitely, puts out some false media and a lot of, FOMO and FUD titles, so it's just so insane, so these are the people that are, going to be in control and trying to make these determinations, but I don't want to go down that path. So I could go on that for hours. So analog people trying to regulate a digital world. There we go. I like that. That's the statement right there. I love that. Analog people trying to regulate a digital world. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Most of those guys are still stuck in Windows 3.1. They're still trying to figure out Windows XP. That's that's the problem. So on some positive news. So check this one out. I love this. This is a brand new live streaming company startup that is doing things in such a way, and I thought this was nice. DOS. They're still using DOS. Yep, they're probably lost with DOS though. DOS was like way beyond their comprehension. Windows 3.1 came up, and they're like, all right, I guess I can figure out how to click. Can you show me how to use this mouse, and how do I click to open this stuff? I'm not really figuring it out, but that's where they kind of got lost. So there's this new live streaming startup called YouNow. What's great about it is that they filed for an SEC. But I'm trying to read this title. Files SEC filing. So they filed a filing for the SEC filing for the filing purposes within the SEC. Why do you have to make this title so difficult to read? YouNow files SEC filing for compliant token earning for app users. Great idea. This is I love it, because this is really geared up to content creators and those that are participating, like right now, participating in the live stream. Let there be a mechanism for compensation for app users. If you're using the app, you're engaged in the app, there's a mechanism in place, and they're filing the right paperwork with the SEC, going down the right path to make this happen. This was actually backed by, backed by Union Square Ventures. It's awesome. There's so much going on right now to see, the fact that they want to compete against YouTube. Hopefully we don't get censored for this. YouTube. So, they're going to be competing against YouTube in this live streaming space. There's so many that have made that attempt to compete against YouTube for live stream and video, and none have really had that there's something missing. Obviously, the following is definitely missing, but there's a component missing within each one of these platforms, whether or not it was DLive or D what was the other one? DTube from Steam or many others. There's just something missing. They just don't catch, like a YouTube, which is mainstream. Now, obviously, you'll have certain people that are going to be more technical, more up on what's going on. Cinnamon, that's going to be coming down the path pretty soon. I think that's going to be a big big in the space. Big opportunity, big potential. This new one, that I just brought up, I think has some amazing potential. This YouNow, maybe not, but they're getting a lot of money to get backed. It says here, YouNow has to date generated over $70 million in digital currency sales. 70 million. I mean, talk about a ramp up, to have some money to operate from, to start building out your platform. 70 million. It's crazy. And we saw some that got up to a billion. What was that? Telegram was a billion when they launched their was it ICO? So it's just unbelievable the scale at which these companies can grow. It's just astonishing. So what's up, Nick Black? Glad you just checked in all the way out from LA. Bright and early over there too. 6 a.m. Over in LA, almost 6 a.m. over in LA. Glad you made it on. Appreciate that, Annalise. Say the title 3 times fast. I know I'm a little bit behind on your comment. Nick Black, the component is censorship resistance. A true platform where no content is censored. Let adults choose what they want to watch. Simple, decentralized, censorship proof. And there's definitely some significance to that. We either live in a free society or we don't. Either we have First Amendment rights or we don't. The fact that for the past number of years they've really twisted our First Amendment rights is a little difficult to handle. The fact that other people think that shouting you down and trying to crush your freedom of speech is their First Amendment right, when in fact it's not. You can't shout somebody else down when they're out there trying to voice their opinion. That's not you're not exercising anyone's First Amendment right at that point. Now it's just a free for all shit fest at that point. But the socialist elements within society have convinced this millennial generation that's out there protesting that it's okay to go and crush other people's freedoms, mainly based on promoting your own freedom. It just makes absolutely no sense. And I brought up this book before. I'd read it years ago. It was called Demophrenia, which is the schizophrenic nature of democracy. It was written by Paul Heidelberg. I don't even know if the book's in print anymore. And I've gone through every book that I've had, and it kills me to not be able to find that book. And once I find that book, I'm going to show it. But I've recommended for many people to read that book, because it shows the transition within a democracy, and shows the issue, the inherent issue that becomes kind of like a mental illness. It's schizophrenic in nature, really, on what happens with a democracy, and that's a perfect example. So, great book. Did you read that, Sifu? You read Demophrenia? So, are we at 46 cents? Annalise, we got BTC is at 11,100. Man, it's going to hit 12,000 before the end of day tomorrow. That's going to be amazing. Mainstream is there's definitely some excitement. And that excitement's going to keep going. Oh man, that's awesome, Sifu. I'm glad you read that book. It was written for another purpose, but the topic at hand, had to do with another country. But overall, it also explored some of the things that happened over in the UK during World War II, and it's just amazing. People willing to give up freedoms in an effort of protecting freedoms. So it gets a little crazy. Oh man, we're at the hour. I told Chip yesterday I'm gonna try to keep my streams to 45 minutes. Impossible. It can't happen. It just doesn't happen. 310 up $5 from yesterday. So yeah, Annalise, definitely appreciate that. Anybody coming in the room, if you haven't hit the thumbs up yet, make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you're new and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you subscribe. If you want to share the channel with others, I would definitely appreciate that. That'd be awesome. So, Sifu reads everything from comic books to cereal boxes, and that Demophrenia kind of fell right in the middle there. It's perfect. It's not really a comic book, but it's not really a cereal box. It's kind of right in the middle. Awesome, man. Presto, appreciate that. Glad you've joined in. Hey, Sean J, good to see you here. So let's sum this up with something interesting. So let's go international. And it's going to be international regarding this space. So I pull up. Okay, so there are two things. One, D and I already told us about, and I wanted to comment a little bit on it, but no reason. So I was going to mention what the FATF rules and the global exchanges that now have to share customer data, and everything that's going to bring everything a little bit more up to KYC, AML, et cetera, which is really now also going to squash any of those mouthy, misinformed, voices out of Congress that are going to say, oh, well, it's being used for terrorism and all sorts of other things, but we don't really know what we're talking about. We're going to say it anyways because we're politicians and that's what we do. We think everybody wants to hear what we have to say, regardless if it's accurate. So anyhow, but this one we're gonna wrap up with this interesting article that was on Bloomberg, and I thought it was great. This came out yesterday, June 21st. Zimbabwe leader wants new currency. How crazy is that? He wants a new currency. All right, make a new currency. We're not stopping you from making a new currency. IMF loan in revival bid. So he wants a new currency, and he wants an IMF loan in order to revive his country, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is interesting because they destroyed their country. Zimbabwe, if you go back through, I did, and I've been out of grad school for a while, but I did a lot of research, economically speaking, into China, and I did a lot in Africa. I focused on certain countries within Africa. Zimbabwe happened to be one of them. Botswana happened to be another one of them. I was really hyper-focused on what these countries had in terms of natural resource and potential of growth. In China, you're looking at their potential for economic growth and some of the things that were holding them back. But Zimbabwe is interesting because Zimbabwe, they displaced. There were many, holdover, European, they had been there for years, but a European descendant, farm owners, and leadership in Zimbabwe, and everybody coexisted. There wasn't a major issue, but the powers that be decided that they wanted to change the structure of how things were. They wanted to change the economic structure in terms of ownership, brought in new leadership. New leadership decided that they wanted all their friends to own these farms. They stripped the rights for all of these farmers based strictly on national identity and skin color, and decided that if you're white, you no longer could have ownership in these farms. And within a very short period of time, because of this despot mentality based on making decisions by putting your friends in position to where they didn't belong, to where they didn't have capability, and they basically turned a prosperous economy and prosperous exporting nation into a nation that was 100% reliant on United Nations handouts. Really, disastrous for them. Very similar to what happened in Venezuela recently, with recently over a period of 20 years plus, flipped the country upside down from a mass exporter to a mass reliant, being massive reliant on handout. Venezuela, obviously their economy still struggling, haven't really turned to the handouts yet, but it's happening as we speak because they've destroyed their country. Zimbabwe, same thing. But I think it's interesting because now we have a newer president. They unseated Robert Mugabe, who was in charge of Zimbabwe for a long time. And so it was important that they were able to get rid of him, and it was done militarily. They removed the leader, and now we see that you have a new Zimbabwe that wants to really a new Zimbabwe that really wants to move back into being a successful, prosperous country. And why not? Why shouldn't they be a successful, prosperous country? Why shouldn't they have equal opportunity within the global economy to get back to a position where they're benefiting their population, they're trading with their neighbors, they're trading globally, they're using their natural resources for what they are, they're farming the land, they're doing everything that they can do to build themselves into a prosperous nation, similar to any other country around the world. So what I think is most interesting about this, though, is that they want to implement a brand new currency, because their currency, forget about it. You might as well just burn the paper. It basically has no value. Their economy basically has zero value. They don't have an economy. Their economy is basically IMF handouts, over a long term. At this point, UN handouts that really they drip down to the people. It's not beneficial. They're looking at ways that they can take this economy and rebuild it. And the reason why I thought it was interesting is because this really factors in to a lot of the things that we've been talking about, a lot of the things even that DNI has brought up, but and others that others in the space have talked about as well. But it really brings to light the fact that you're building a new economy, you want a new currency. What's to stop them from utilizing a digital asset as a new currency and putting it in place? We've seen the Marshall Islands do it. We saw Venezuela unsuccessfully use a false, a fake digital asset and try to implement it. However, it's possible, and it would be really interesting to see a country that begins to grow up with an economy based on a digital asset. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I don't know if that's realistic, but here's an opportunity. And this goes back to, the IMF. Can the IMF, actually do something positive in this scenario where they where they direct Zimbabwe and they direct the leadership, they direct President Emerson, Mnangagwa, and they direct them in the right, into working with a digital asset to build up their economy based on a digital asset. Now, imagine if it was a stable coin. Imagine if it was, based off of, the XRP ledger. Imagine, it's endless. It's really endless what they could potentially do if they build it off of the XRP ledger. Imagine for the first time in history, you'll have a government functioning in full transparency, a corrupted government that's trying to revive itself out of the ashes based off of complete transparency would be amazing. WB, I thought that South Africa, where the white farmers are being attacked and having their farms taken away, then Russia takes them in. I'm not, that's interesting. For years, we've had a lot of issues in South Africa as well with things like that. And it comes down to, at this point, it comes down to racial tension. It comes down to, in their minds, trying to right a wrong of segregationism by their wrong is utilizing another wrong and trying to do that. And just a final note, on that, it's just insane. They need to look forward into the future. They can't look backwards, and try to revive. There was a hearing on Capitol Hill last week, and it's killing me. I don't know who it was that spoke. He got up there, said he had voted for Obama, but he said he was cautioned not to come up and speak. He was discussing reparation, and they said, don't go up there and speak because you're going to be perceived by the Democrats as a Republican, and the Republicans might not like what you have to say either because they're going to perceive you as a Democrat. I forgot what he said about the Republican side of it. This guy came up there and he got booed. He was talking about why is it that the Democrats are trying to relive slavery? Why are they trying to, focus on undermining the success of individuals today? And here's a guy who said he grew up in a good household, went to an Ivy League school, had a great education, has a great job. And he's saying, but now you're saying that, because of multiple generations before him had suffered, but now the government is focused on dredging up this painful history, and they want to now take money and give it to him. The way he explained it was really, really interesting. But what they're trying to do, the Democrats in this country, they're trying to build their campaign based on emotion. Forget about where you stand in the party. Just look at that, in a sense, on the tactic that they're using right now, politically speaking, and dredging up emotions from history. And they've successfully implemented a lot of that into the millennial mindset that really doesn't know any better because for some reason they don't use Google and they don't look history up and they don't understand history. But they've been able to manipulate people's mindset and twisting things that have happened over history and now they're trying to implement wrongs in order to right wrongs that occurred in the past by stepping on people's rights today. And it doesn't make any sense. And it goes back to demophrenia. It goes back to that book. And that's why I recommend people read it, because a lot of the things that happen politically don't make sense. And it's kind of disturbing, similar to what WB is saying, in terms of, the white farmers in South Africa now fleeing for their lives because their farms are being taken away. But we've already had the transitions of those governments, so again, we don't want to, we could talk about this forever, but presto, Zulu is protecting the farmers in the region. They don't want to starve. Too bad all of South Africa doesn't protect the farmers. That's exactly right. People don't want to starve. People need to work together. Forget about all the animosity of the past. We live in the present. We don't live 100 years ago. We don't live 50 years ago. We live in the present, meaning that we all need to coexist. We all have to work together towards the betterment of society, and so I think that's a positive message to leave off on, because here we have a group of people. Right now we have 44 in the stream. We had over 50 a little while ago, but people from all over the world, and all I see are icons. I could care less, what people's, what people's, well, not that I could care less, but for this topic at hand, I think that, we all have something positive to contribute. I think it's amazing that we have people from all sorts of cultural backgrounds that are here, whether you're in the United States, from, your family came from wherever, if you're in France, if you're in Germany, if you're in Africa, if you're in Latin America, tune in. If you're over in Australia, if you're in Thailand, it doesn't matter where you are. The fact is, we have all these people getting together right now, transacting with one another, discussing with one another, sharing commonality with one another. And that's what's important. That's how we grow. And that's what the digital asset community, in my opinion, has done. Because before this, you get on and I'm sure there's topics. You're interested in photography, you're interested in racing, you're interested in cars. Forget about if you're interested in soccer, because if you're on opposing teams, you want to kill each other. But the thing is that, we look at it, a community. And I think that's important. I think we have a global community. We have individual nation states. We have to respect each individual's nation state. If I say I'm from the United States and I'm proud of my national identity of being a U.S. citizen, that has to have meaning, because I need to have the same recognition of George over in France saying, you know what, I'm French and I'm proud of being French, and I don't have to be embarrassed by it. I think that's all really, really critical, And Carl Lewis, you think dad jokes should be available to all. Exactly. The thing is that comedy, you know, brings levity, you know, brings, you know, everybody can get along. We shouldn't be afraid, you know, to have interaction and communication with one another. You know, what's happening in a country like Zimbabwe, you look at, you know, historically speaking, you have to learn from history. You can't relive history. You have to learn from it because, again, we live in the present, developing into the future. So we have to learn from history so we don't repeat the mistakes, learn from mistakes so that we make today and tomorrow better. But there's those within society that want to learn history and re-implement history. And that's a negative, you know, and the tension, the division. Focus on a country like Zimbabwe that needs to rebuild from the ashes, the potential that it could be. What can a community bring to a country like Zimbabwe? They're looking for a direction. They're looking for handouts again, but they're looking to restructure their economic well-being to get back to a point where they were successful. Hopefully, from a political perspective, they're also making changes, because if they don't make their changes politically to allowing all people to work together, it doesn't matter how well their economy is put together today, because they're going to slip right back to where they were not that long ago. And those are the lessons that, you know, that they need to take. So that's it. At an hour 20. Really appreciate everybody for, you know, for being on. Really love it. You know, great engagement, great feedback, great comments. Love the fact, again, that we have people from different parts of the world bringing, you know, different opinion, different perspective, different viewpoint. Is absolutely outstanding. You know, and even Carl Lewis. So even Carl Lewis is welcome here. I tried living in a present for a while. It was an open house on birthdays and Christmas. Love it, love it. So it's outstanding. So yeah, so, you know, again, thank you guys. Thank everybody. Monday I stream Mondays, Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturdays at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Chip XRP Minute is Tuesdays and Thursdays in this exact time spot. No, not today. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 p.m. Auburn Rain, great stream last night. Fridays at 10 p.m. And of course, we have DNI Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. He does an outstanding job. I'm sure you guys tune in. And actually, not this next weekend, the weekend after, Saturday, 9 p.m. I don't know what the date is, whatever that date is in July. I'm going to have Rob Cash on the set, and we're going to do a Saturday evening live stream at 9 p.m. We'll get that message out. I'm really looking forward to having Rob Cash on. We've only been talking about it for months and months and months. So, Rob, if you're listening, I made the announcement, so now it's for real. So, anyhow, again, really appreciate you guys being on. Let's keep our eyes out for 12,000, and maybe we'll even see 46, 47 cents with XRP. So, anyhow, I'll check you guys out later. Again, thanks for being on. And that's a wrap.